I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, March the 1st, brought to you in part by Mossy Oak Properties with Brian Peck. They are offering one of the best cattle farms that you will ever find anywhere, an 837-acre cattle farm in southwest Missouri, just 20 minutes north of Mountain Grove. That's a popular area right there, just right north of I-44. They've got 37 fenced pastures there for rotational grazing to make the most out of that grass there. Water all over the place, a spring-fed creek, a 100 by 240 foot feeding barn, 60 by 40 heated shop. They've got commodity barns, got hay barns, a 5,000 square foot, 4-bedroom, 4-bath home. If that's something you might be interested in, get a hold of Brian Peck at Mossy Oak Properties. Putin steals near $100 a head from cattle producers. And you say, well, what are you talking about there? He's the next black swan. And if you look at the last 2 weeks, so 2 weeks ago on February the 16th, your March feeder cattle contract ended at 168.72. Today here on Tuesday it started out at 157.72. That's $11 a hundred based on an 8-weight steer there. That's getting pretty close to $100 a head that Putin has stole from you. And you think, well, you know, how did he do it? He is the whole, I mean, he's everything in this big unrest, this war that's going over in Eastern Europe. Just a crazy son of a bitch, and evil and hoggish and greedy. All of that money that he makes over there in Russia goes to enrich himself. And so he's going in there, going into a sovereign nation and just wanting to take it back over. You know, I mean, it's like back in the Roman times. And it's unbelievable how he's just went in there, and not just on military spots or on soldiers. He's killing women and children, just willy-nilly going around there. Got a 40-mile long convoy of tanks and stuff coming in there to take over the Capitol, and it's got this whole world unrest, and everybody in the world hates his guts and livers, except for China. And likely that's what we're looking to here, as weak as we've gotten here in these United States with our leadership. We're looking at Russia and China against the rest of the world. And but when you've got crazy fools like that with their thumbs on a red button, of course we can't say a whole lot here with President Magoo holding the keys to ours. But it's just unbelievable how we can get people that are not completely carrying a full deck, leading these countries that have nuclear weapons. But this is indeed another black swan. You know, we talked about your fire there at your Finney County plant there back in 2019. We saw that being a black swan. We saw your the pandemic coming in, and actually your fire was back in 2009. Excuse me, not 19, but in 2019, whenever we saw the pandemic come in, when we saw the hacking going on, they called that another black swan. This one's worse than that. This is terrible, and it's got nothing to do with the cattle business at all. It is making our inputs extremely higher, but this is Rocky IV all over again, and we've got that Ukrainian president playing Rocky Balboa. Everybody's rooting for him, but everybody's too scared to get in and give him the kind of help he needs because they've got that crazy Putin with his thumb close to the red button on their nuclear weapons, and he's already threatened them. But who knows where this deal is going to go? But it's been a long time since we've seen a war this close up, and I'm not sure if people have the stomach for it. And and Putin has already killed Russia's stock market. He's already killed their currency. The sanctions are going on. I mean, his country's no longer going to get to play soccer or participate in global markets or in all kinds of things. He don't care. He just wants more power and to get the Soviet Union all back together. But just absolutely ridiculous that this is happening. And and we're talking about it being tough on the cattle market. Of course, it's a whole lot tougher for those people that live over there or have loved ones over there or interests over there. But this is a bad deal. Let's talk about your board to open the week. February live cattle futures up $1.22, and you think, oh, well, that's not bad. The basis had got so far out of whack, it had to go up some. Our weighted average on last week's live steers 143 and a quarter almost, and live cattle futures to go off the board had to run up $1.22 in the face of all this negativity just to get within seeing distance of it at 140 and a half. And like I said on our last visit, if it can't get any closer than that at maturity to the value of the product, what the hell good is it? April live cattle futures down 50 cents at 141.42. Going your back months of live cattle, they were down 2 cents to down 60, but not too much. How about March feeder cattle? And I talked about them on the open there. Down $2.30 at 57.72. Ouch. And your grains were just out of this world. I mean, they just blew up to start the week. They actually weren't down that much to close the week last week. They were just very volatile. But to start the week, they're just up crazy. April feeder cattle down 275 at 162 even. Your back months on feeder cattle down $1.80 to down 280. But look at corn. On Monday only up 38 cents. We were scared of it getting to $6 a bushel. Now it's at $7 a bushel. Closed for the day at 697 and a half. Wow. It was actually up 5 1/4 cents last week during last week's trade when all this came about. So we couldn't really blame everything on your grains because they weren't that far out of whack last week compared to how volatile that they've been. Beans on Monday up 54 cents at 16.44 1/4. Last week your beans were actually down 11 1/4 cents for the whole week, so that wasn't too bad. Now your Kansas City wheat, of course, we knew how dry it is in the southern plains in your hard red winter wheat region in the United States. They raise wheat over there where all this war is taking place, and it's just dry. I tell you what, terrible dry. It's got to rain somewhere, guys. But Kansas City wheat up 67 and a half at 9.54 1/4. It was up 55 3/4 cents last week. So unbelievable, up way over $1 there here in just recent sessions. Weighted average on last week's negotiated fat cattle trade out of your 5-area feeding region, 57,100 head. Compares to 80,700 the week before, 67,800 the same week a year ago. Not very good volume at all, and the market started getting tough with just this black swan here, this new war. But live sales steers and heifers last week in your 5-area feeding region, direct basis 138 to 145. And that was kind of a wide spread. That 138 was just one deal. It was 105 head in Texas. The next closest was 140. So that 138, that's pulling it down there on the spread, but really that's not a real market. 145, you think it's not real. There was near 5,000 head at 145. But your weighted average on live steers, 143.22. That was up 86 cents compared to the weighted average from the previous week. Dress sales steers and heifers 224 to 229, about 1,200 head at 229, and weighted average on dress steers 227.13. That was up $1.09 compared to the previous week. So we still gained some. Going to be tough this week to gain. But I tell you what, guys, we're in about the shortest numbers of market-ready cattle that we're going to have. And you got to dig in. And I realize they're having a war over there in Europe, and things are tough, and grains are high. Grains don't have a damn thing to do with fat cattle, finished fat cattle. They don't have nothing to do with them. These packers are wanting to ramp up their slaughter. We're about to get seasonally where the box beef is going to turn back around. They're going to want your cattle, and you gotta ask more for them. That's all there is to it. You gotta ask more for them. So if you're ready to do that, then get ready, because we got some tough times ahead of us in our fat cattle arena in May and June. Terribly tough. All them cattle that should have been gaining 2 pounds a day turned out on weed or turned out somewhere. They were in a feed yard somewhere gaining 3 something a day. They're going to be ready earlier. It's gonna be tough sledding this summer, and it's going to start early in May and June. You got to make hay while the sun's shining right now, and you got to build this market position up there as high as you can get it, because I guarantee you they're going to come swatting at it whenever we get supplies up and demand down. But nationwide, we sold 68,300 head negotiated, 29,600 negotiated grid, 268,100 formulas. There was 200,000 head more sold formula last week than negotiated cash. And we've got NCBA and Texas Cattle Feeders, Kansas Livestock just preaching against getting some kind of a mandate set to preserve our negotiated trade. And they just want to turn it all over to the packers, I guess. We can all be contract feeders just like the hogs and the chicken guys. But of the 68,300 little light negotiated trade, 23,000 of it, or 34%, was for the 2 to 4 week delivery. So packers are already getting ready to set this market up. They're going to use this black swan, this war, as a precursor to kind of get things stopped, get this gaining stopped and raising the market. And then they're going to get their coffers kind of filled up for down the road for near-term future, and then they're gonna cut the market out from under us. That's what they do every time. Did have a few sales in Iowa. Some weak sisters sold out on a Monday, lower, 400 head from 140.5 to 142. Box beef cutout values were lower again, but seasonally that's going to turn around here, just any day. But choice cuts $257.51 down 76 cents. Select down $2 at $253.40. Slaughter was aggressive, 122,000 on Monday, 4,000 more than the Monday a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma. It's a Tuesday sale there. We support them. You can view and bid that sale on dvauction.com. Got about 3,300 head in Beaver, Oklahoma, guys. I tell you what, and I've told you before, that's the only thing going in that town besides the Pizza Hut and the Love's convenience store. But 3,300 head there. That's a going sale barn. They got many, many loads of steer and heifer yearling feeders there. And I've told you before, Jeff Slatton's a good guy to do business with. I've gotten to know him really well over the last several months. He cares so much about what his customers' cattle bring. He worries and worries, does everything he can do to squeeze every drop he can out of those cattle. Doesn't want any trader cattle, won't take them. But if you bring him fresh cattle in there, he will work his butt off to get every dime he can get for them. Beaver County Stockyards. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index brought to you by Margin Tracks by Midcon. Late in the day on Monday, sitting at 159.54, and that's up 16 cents from the end of the week last week. Talk about your big sales on Monday. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City, only 6,000 head. Now I realized I had some weather last week. I drove right through it. But that was middle of the week there, and it was a miserable drive from Joplin to Oklahoma City. But it's mostly just fears over this war deal, this black swan. You know, why would anybody want to pull cattle in if they had to? You know, the cattle hadn't had anything to eat out anyway. Most guys are feeding cattle out on the wheat, and that's an expensive pen to feed cattle in. But 6,000 heads all. A year ago this week they had 12,300. So that just fears, and feeder cattle sold unevenly steady, and calves too, unevenly steady, and so they were kind of warranted on that, worrying about, you know, how the cattle were going to sell. But stocker cattle, I tell you what, there's such a demand for stocker type cattle, some hard wintered cattle, some calf weight yearlings. A lot of times they're a little bit plainer, but they got compensatory gain. And guys are buying their grass cattle. They want those types right now. They got a lot of go to them. Those stocker type cattle sold $2 to $6 higher in Oklahoma City. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 4,800 head. Same deal there, just fears. Same week a year ago, 13,600. So it just goes to show, you know, people are watching this stuff. Feeder steers were steady. Feeder heifers, $1 to $3 higher. Steer or stocker cattle and calves sold $3 to $5 higher. Stick out sale in Joplin I thought was really good, and these would have had to have been some stocker types. And don't think they won't turn 7-weight cattle out on grass. As high as this feed is, they will absolutely turn 7 weights out on grass. 60 head, 720-pound steers bring 170-250. How about Russell, Iowa? Russell Livestock Auction, 3,700 head there. Farmer feeders in that country, they're not too worried. Steady to $5 higher on all classes. Calves and bigger feeding calves. Not too many true yearlings or stockers in that part of the country. Those cattle haven't had it made, plenty to eat. But look at some stick out sales around the circuit. And they're mostly from South Dakota. Remember on our last visit they were mostly from Nebraska, but mostly South Dakota. Aberdeen livestock sales, Kevin Larson sent me a quote there, 61 head, 1,015-pound steers at $151. My goodness. How about Faith Livestock Auction, Faith, South Dakota, 75 head, 755-pound steers, bring $178.50. How about Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota? They sell 52 head, 675-pound steers at $185.25. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Monday, and your Ralgro top quote for the day, come out of Treasure Valley Livestock in Caldwell, Idaho. 128 steers, weighed 811 at $162.50 way out there in Idaho. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.